From the Cronkite studios in downtown Phoenix, this is Cronkite News.
Doctors' offices are usually places to get help when you're sick, but for some, it can leave them feeling discriminated against. We look into how doctors' unintentional bias can affect the health of minority patients.
Plus, a bill to decrease minimum wage for student workers sparks strong reaction. We'll take you to the hearing at the state capitol.
And the drought contingency plan is at stake in the nation's capital. What state officials from the Colorado River watershed had to say as they work toward an agreement.
Cronkite News starts now.
Good evening and welcome to Cronkite News on Arizona PBS. I'm Nicole Hernandez.
And I'm Bobby Krause. Thank you for joining us. A study by an Arizona cardiologist indicates doctors can shortchange their treatment of African American and Hispanic patients.
Cronkite News reporter Ashley Carter talked to physicians about the unconscious bias and what patients and doctors can do to address it.
The doctor's office seems to be the best place to go when you're feeling ill. However, some research shows physicians may not listen as well to their African American and other minority patients, affecting their health. Joy Hale remembers when a doctor misdiagnosed her valley fever that led to health complications.
Started with a cough, and before long, my organs were affected by that.
Hale says she repeatedly asked for help, but didn't get it until she went to another doctor.
I don't think that just every doctor from every culture can handle the symptoms, the concerns, or even understand fully the concerns that different cultures have.
A 2018 study by Arizona cardiologist and researcher Dr. Khadijah Breathitt says physicians often treat African American and Hispanic patients differently than non-minorities.
It's bias more than racism. By bias, meaning that you don't necessarily recognize that you have more of a predilection for a certain group than another.
The study also shows doctors are less likely to refer minority patients to specialists because they assume such patients cannot afford it or would not follow their doctor's guidance. A Tempe doctor says she's aware of the problem.
I've seen it in practice that patients who are Black or a minority tend to get passed up as far as early diagnosis and treatment. That's always the main goal when treating patients. And they're often passed off as, oh, you'll be okay. It's almost a blind eye in medicine, and it happens more often than not.
Breathitt says unconscious bias is likely one reason.
The majority of physicians mean to do well, mean to do the right thing with their patients, but it's hard to see what's unconscious unless you're taking steps to become aware of the issues that you have.
She says medical schools conduct diversity training, but that has been inconsistent.
It's a hard thing to address especially when you don't recognize that the problem's there, or you don't think the problem is real. There are a lot of people that say, I don't see color. I treat everybody the same.
Glover remembers a time when her bias got in the way of treating a patient.
He's a white, scrawny kid. And looked like he could have been on drugs.
Glover says the patient pleaded to be heard. Once she took the time to listen, she figured out he was gravely ill.
He was a near miss because of my biases and my colleague biases.
Patient Muhammad Kayali says he's talked to doctors and been to hospitals that judged him based on his name.
They see the name, they look at you and they're like, oh, is you Muhammad? Like, yeah, okay, well, come this way. Like, they just want to get me out of there.
Experts say one way to address the issue is to increase the diversity of doctors. According to the Kaiser Family Foundation, about 6 out of 10 medical school graduates in the U.S. are white. The 2017 report shows African Americans make up less than 6% of graduates. Hispanics make up less than 5%.
There's not enough of us to spread around to take care of everybody. And there are a lot of targeted initiatives to grow the pipeline so that we can raise up more minority physicians, more women physicians, and particularly cardiologists.
Experts say it isn't practical or necessary for patients to only seek out physicians of the same race or ethnicity. Instead, seek other qualities.
And what I tell providers as well as patients is to try to develop a relationship where there's trust so that you can identify common ground where you can see that person as your loved one. Oh, that guy, they kind of reminds me of my brother, or kind of reminds me of my mother or my father. And even if the situation gets a little bit uncomfortable, you're more willing to show empathy and show a lot of care with that person because it's your family member or like a family member.
Glover says she promotes her work, not her race.
It's, easy to see that I'm a Black doctor. When I market myself, I want patients to get a new idea, new medicine, if you will, to come to my practice and get time. I don't spend 5 to 7 minutes with my patient. I sit down and talk to them 20 to 30 minutes at times.
Patients of all backgrounds need to shop around for doctors. Now Glover's patient, Joy Hale, says she's happy.
As an African American, it's important to me that I feel like I'm heard and understood.
Breathitt says patients need to realize their value when talking to their doctors. She says everyone deserves trust, respect, and appropriate care. Live in downtown Phoenix, Ashley Carter, Cronkite News.
You racist, sexist bigot. That's the attention-grabbing title of a documentary recently screened at Civic Space Park in downtown Phoenix. The film tells the story of several Arizonans as they share details of how they've been discriminated against. Cronkite News reporter Austin Westfall was there and caught the public's reaction to the film.
Oh, you're Jewish? I'll pray for you.
Where are your feathers?
I didn't raise you to look like this. I didn't raise you to be like this.
Testimonials like these hit home for Unique Yazzie.
He lives in a world where he doesn't understand racism, and it's a privileged kind of upbringing that I'm trying to bring him into, but there are moments that I see it.
Yazzie is talking about her 11-year-old son, who she says has been called racist names in the past.
That's the world he has to grow up in, and that's sad.
That's why she came to Civic Space Park for a screening of You Racist, Sexist Bigot, a locally made documentary showcasing real-life stories of discrimination in Arizona.
What, next thing you know, your daughter's gonna bring one home, then what? Then you gotta burn the house down.
Can't you find somebody in your own race?
I'm a native-born Arizonan.
The film's co-director Matt Steinkamp says the idea for the film came after the 2016 presidential election.
There was a lot of media that was really putting out stories and characterizing people of color and people of different identities in a very negative way.
That's what Steinkamp says motivated him to want to give those people the space to tell their story.
The goal of the film is to start a conversation about discrimination in the time when people are trying to quiet those conversations.
I let so much slide before I finally said something, like I'm uncomfortable.
Fíjate que es eso, no? La gente nos tiene como monstruos.
Is that bag that you have, does it contain bombs?
I think it's very relevant. I think more people should see that, I think it gets people out of their comfort zone, and that's important.
You're a tranny.
Once you go black, you never go back.
In Phoenix, Austin Westfall, Cronkite News.
The Phoenix screening was part of a tour across several U.S. cities celebrating the ACLU's centennial. The tour includes pop-up interactive exhibitions about voting rights, immigrants' rights, and mass incarceration.
Former Arizona lawmaker David Stringer abruptly resigned from his position yesterday. The move comes after an investigation into charges of sex crimes from the 1980s, and others calling for him to resign after he made derogatory statements regarding immigrants and black people last year. Stringer refused to resign for months, then reversed that decision around 4 p.m. yesterday, just an hour before a deadline the Ethics Committee had set for him to release records.
Well, new numbers released by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement shows a sharp spike in the number of migrants being released here in Arizona. Between December 21st and March 8th, ICE released a total of 14,500 immigrants from federal detention into the state. By March 20th, that number grew to 18,500. Across the U.S., more than 108,000 migrants have been released during that same time frame. And a local nonprofit is helping to try and take care of some of those migrants. St. Vincent de Paul is now taking in migrant families at one of its Phoenix locations. It's working with U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, as well as the International Rescue Committee. The groups are helping these families feel comfortable while they figure out their next steps.
Our work is to feed, clothe, house, and heal people, and it seemed like a natural extension of what we do every day, which is to welcome people. I know the numbers seem to be going up, and you hear more and more about people being stranded at the Greyhound station, and so we really wanted to try to prevent that and give them a safe place to be during the day.
You know, one of the most enriching things about actually doing this work is typically it takes a few hours, but eventually the families get settled in, and by dinner time you'll see the kids playing and actually, you know, just living their lives as kids, whereas if they were at the bus station they would be in the cold, lost and confused trying to figure this out.
The groups are providing people with food, hygiene products, and a safe place to stay, as well as connecting them with their families in other parts of the country.
A bill that would allow businesses to lower the pay for part-time workers between 16 and 22 years of age passed the Senate Commerce Committee earlier this afternoon. Cronkite News reporter Bayan Wang went to the hearing and says the room was packed. Bayan, what was it like in there?
Yeah, there were about 150 people that filled the room. The majority were concerned high school and college-age students who were against House Bill 2523. Several from both sides spoke at the podium to make their cases for or against the bill. HB 2523 would apply to anyone under the age of 22 who is a full-time student and is working part-time. Proponents say the bill would enable businesses to hire more youth who may be struggling to get a job. But several students who spoke at the podium said the pay cut could hurt their ability to support their family.
We obviously have a problem in the state. We have 12% youth unemployment, which is 3 times higher than the state unemployment. As wage mandates rise, employers are forced to react.
We would struggle for sure. It would just kind of be placed in a limbo where, hey, you know, I'm gonna have to drop out of school or I'm gonna have to pick up another job, and just it's gonna make it 10 times harder.
The House has already approved the bill. It passed today in the Senate Commerce Committee hearing and will now go before the full Senate. Live in the broadcast center, Bayan Wang, Cronkite News.
Well, a measure to repeal a controversial vehicle registration fee is now one step closer to reaching the governor's desk. The bill would reduce the $32 fee, and it passed in a House committee yesterday. The measure was introduced after legislators were surprised with a higher registration fee than was originally projected last year. The fee was originally projected to be $18, but grew to $32 after it was implemented.
The plan to protect Arizona's water supply moved forward in Washington, D.C. today.
Coming up on Cronkite News, we hear from Arizona lawmakers in the nation's capital about their concerns over the drought contingency plan.
Plus, a new monthly subscription from one rideshare company could help you save money. We take a look at the program headed to Phoenix straight ahead.
Stay in the know on the go. At Cronkite News, we work hard to report the facts and keep you updated, whether we're on set or on the scene.
Taking it from the studio to the field. So I'm here in South Phoenix.
In Phoenix, we're just a click away. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, or find us online at cronkitenews.azpbs.org.
Here at Cronkite News, we have producers who craft shows that make an impact on our community. Our broadcasts allow students to be involved in all levels of production, from producing to directing. We are guided by highly respected professionals who mentor the journalists of tomorrow. From technical directing to teleprompting and beyond, our production crew works tirelessly to produce meaningful and award-winning shows. We are Cronkite News on Arizona PBS.
I'm Judy Woodruff, anchor and managing editor of the PBS NewsHour. The journalists of tomorrow face a fast-changing media landscape, but quality news remains vitally important to our communities, our country, and our world. At ASU's Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication, students learn solid, reliable reporting, holding the powerful accountable, and rebuilding the public's trust. The Cronkite School and Arizona PBS, preparing the next generation for a stronger future of journalism.
By the year 2050, there will be more plastic in the ocean than fish. Before Professor Halden, I had an insane amount of passion, but I almost felt helpless because I didn't know how to use it. Professor Halden gave me a chance to make a difference. Being at a place like ASU allows you to take these big leaps. Ultimately, the biggest problems in the world cannot be solved alone.
It's been years in the making, a multi-state plan to preserve the Colorado River as the source of drinking water for tens of millions of people in the West.
And that plan moved one step closer to approval today with an upbeat hearing before a House committee in Washington. Cronkite News reporter Alyssa Klink was at the hearing today and has the story live from our Washington bureau. Alyssa?
There have been lots of fights along the way as Arizona worked with 6 other states, local and tribal officials, and the U.S. and Mexican governments. But with the deal almost in hand, today was a day for joking, not fighting.
Arizonans, as we say, whiskey's for drinking, water's for fighting. But apparently today, water's for compromising, and that's a good thing.
That was the general mood today at a House Natural Resources Subcommittee hearing where state and federal officials presented the long-awaited Colorado Drought Contingency Plan. Among other things, the plan revises the amount of water that each of the basin states will be able to draw from Lake Mead and Lake Powell should there be a shortage. Everybody had to give a little something.
What I think is important is to recognize that the agreements and the legislation is a compromise. Everybody is going to feel some pain.
If it works, that compromise will not just limit water removal, it will help prevent future shortfalls. One speaker said the plan would cut in half the risk of the Colorado River from reaching critically low levels. But first, a bill has to be approved and sent to the president. Arizona Department of Water Resources Director Tom Bushatsky is confident Arizona Congressman Raul Grijalva can get it done.
He will be introducing the legislation, and that process will begin there. The process will begin in the Senate to introduce legislation and move that forward and get the votes on both sides and make this law so that we can implement the DCP.
Once the deal is approved, it will run through 2026 when the Colorado River Basin states will have to start over. But Bushatsky said those talks will begin almost immediately.
We now have a safe haven. We have a bridge to get to the next phase. And I think that next phase will be kicked off through the renegotiation of the 2007 guidelines, which was required to begin before the end of 2020, but we will begin long before then to work on this.
Today's hearing drew 7 of the state's 9 House members and a number of tribal leaders from around Arizona. While Grijalva is expected to introduce legislation in the House, Arizona Senator Martha McSally vowed yesterday to introduce a Senate bill. In Washington, Alyssa Klink, Cronkite News.
Rideshare company Uber is helping people save a few bucks with a new program soon expanding to Phoenix called the Uber Ride Pass. It will cost $25 a month and includes a 20% discount on rides, free jump bike and scooter rides, and protected pricing. That means even when Uber prices surge due to high demand, Ride Pass users will only have to pay regular price. The pass has been available in some cities since October, but this week Uber announced it will expand to 16 more, including Phoenix, Seattle, and Las Vegas. Customers can buy the Ride Pass in the app.
And that could definitely help out in those days when the traffic is bad.
No doubt, and the valley is definitely continuing to grow, and millions of acres of desert land could be developed over the next 100 years. Up next on Cronkite News, some say the city should conserve these areas of land in order to preserve Arizona's economic and environmental future.
85 degrees is the current temperature right now in Phoenix. Wind going at 10 miles per hour, so it is a little bit windy, but there's plenty of sunshine right now and headed into your weekend. I'll be back later on in the show to give you that 7-day forecast, so stay put.
Stay in the know on the go. At Cronkite News, we work hard to report the facts and keep you updated, whether we're on set or on the scene.
Taking it from the studio to the field. So I'm here in South Phoenix.
In Phoenix, we're just a click away. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, or find us online at cronkitenews.azpbs.org.
I was impressed how expansive the children's educational program is. I had no idea. Teachers go over the entire state reading books to children in both Spanish and English if they don't understand, so that the parents can teach their children what the value of reading a book is. I had no idea that you did that. You know, that in and of itself is spectacular.
For more information about including Arizona PBS in your future plans, visit azpbs.org/giving.
Here at Cronkite News, we have producers who craft shows that make an impact on our community. Our broadcasts allow students to be involved in all levels of production, from producing to directing. We are guided by highly respected professionals who mentor the journalists of tomorrow. From technical directing to teleprompting and beyond, our production crew works tirelessly to produce meaningful and award-winning shows. We are Cronkite News on Arizona PBS.
If you're looking for one show that tells you what happened that day in the world of business, it's NBR.
We saw a classic shipwreck.
Nordstrom's opening stores.
Triple-digit gains.
Crude climbs.
We're there to help our audience find new investment ideas.
The market still has room to go up.
Nightly Business Report is the longest-running business television program in history.
Weeknights at 10:30 on Arizona PBS.
For decades, urban sprawl has collided with the desire for desert preservation.
Reporter Kyle Dowd spoke with Arizona development experts to explain why cities should develop inward rather than outward, benefiting the economy and the environment.
Colorado resident Gretchen Driesen is at the Phoenix Mountain Preserve to enjoy Arizona's unique landscape and to get away from the snow.
For me, it's different. We don't have cactus there, so that's really cool to see on the mountainside. And the red rocks are really pretty, so it's a very different environment than what I am used to.
Tourists like Driesen brought in nearly $23 billion in 2017 into the Arizona economy, according to the Arizona Office of Tourism. As metropolitan Phoenix expands, preserving nature is key to attracting tourists and drawing in new residents. An additional 2 million acres of desert will be developed in the next 100 years, says Ian Dowdy with the Center for the Future of Arizona. He encourages city and county leaders to adopt conservation policies.
This could be an opportunity to help protect more of our open space and to make sure growth is done in a structured way to preserve those corridors and connections, the water supplies, and make sure that there's enough parks and open space.
Mark Stapp, professor of real estate at the W.P. Carey School of Business, says cities in the Phoenix metro area are increasingly developing their urban core, rather than chipping away at raw desert, which he says would be a waste of resources.
So we're a very young metropolitan area, and we are beginning to mature and densify on a wider regional basis now. And we see that with all the infill development that's been occurring since the recession.
Driesen says conservation is about looking out for Arizona's economic and environmental future.
I have children and I want there to be, some sort of, outdoor lifestyle for them to enjoy when they get older. And I like to enjoy it too. If you don't take care of it, there's not gonna be a whole lot to enjoy.
In the desert, Kyle Dowd, Cronkite News.
The U.S. Census Bureau projects Phoenix will be the 4th largest city in the country by next year, and organizations like the Center for the Future of Arizona are preparing for the continued population increase. And it's a beautiful day. Opening day is finally here with all 30 teams in action in games today across the country.
And it definitely is some beautiful weather for baseball. Ashley, what can we expect for the rest of the week?
We definitely can expect plenty of sunshine and to remain in those 80s. I mean, let's take a look at how we're looking regionally. Phoenix is the place to be. We're one of 4 cities in that 80-degree temperatures. Now, usually around this time of the year, we're averaging out about 90 degrees, but right now we're only at 85 degrees. El Paso beating us for the warmest at 86 degrees, but I think it makes it perfect weather to go out there and do some outdoor activities, especially if you have plans tonight. We're going to remain in those 80s until 8 o'clock tonight, and then we're going to dip down into those lower 70s at 10 o'clock. So it's a perfect time if you have night plans to head out and grab a friend and just enjoy this nice weather while it lasts. Tomorrow our high is going to decrease a little bit to 82 degrees. In Tempe it's going to be 81 degrees, but that sunshine is still going to be out there to enjoy your Friday. And if you plan on heading out and traveling for the weekend, it's going to be nice weather for a good road trip. Saturday those clouds are coming back in the 7-day forecast with that high at 84 degrees. Plenty of sunshine on your Sunday with 84 degrees for that high. We're going to start off your work week with some clouds and 86 degrees for that high. It's going to last on your Tuesday, but Wednesday the sunshine is coming back. So enjoy these 80s while it lasts because it won't be here for long. From the Cronkite News Weather Center, Ashley Carter.
The 2019 NFL Annual League meetings took place in Phoenix earlier this week.
And Cronkite News reporter Michaela Perkins has the latest on what Cardinals' new head coach Cliff Kingsbury's expectations are for the future.
The buzz of the room has been all about the Arizona Cardinals and what they plan to do with the first pick in the NFL draft. Now, we've all heard head coach Cliff Kingsbury speak about Kyler Murray, but what we haven't heard is what he thinks of the other potential first picks in Nick Bosa and Quinnen Williams.
They're both dominant football players, as dominant as they were in college football, and really enjoyed meeting them at the combine. We'll continue to get to know those guys throughout the process. They're can't-miss prospects. When you watch them on film, the effort they play with, the type of young men they are, they're going to be great football players.
It's no secret the Cardinals have a big decision ahead of them as they must decide what to do with the first pick in the NFL draft, which is less than a month away. In Phoenix, Michaela Perkins, Cronkite News.
Cronkite News is proud to be the news division of Arizona PBS. Here's what's coming up on Arizona Horizon and PBS NewsHour.
On the next Arizona Horizon, why do we buy so many advertised products even if we don't need them? We'll hear about the psychology behind consumer behavior. And we'll learn about a new business started by a veteran to help with his war injuries.
I'm Judy Woodruff on the next NewsHour. Born after 1997, Generation Z faces different economic realities. That's Thursday on the PBS NewsHour.
That's it for Cronkite News tonight. Thank you for joining us.
For top Arizona stories anytime, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.